He kissed her, right in front of me, at a dinner party that was supposed to celebrate my success. My code, my software, my win. Only it wasn't a celebration anymore. Not for me. It was AF *** King ambush. I sat there, frozen, watching this tall, smirking clown in a navy suit, Bryce Dalton, lean over and kiss my wife on the cheek like he already owned her. Everyone clapped. Champagne glasses clinked. Her mother wiped away tears of joy. My wife, Madison, didn't look at me once. And then her father, Richard, the man whose dying company I resurrected with a single line of code, stood up, raised his glass, and said, "Tonight, I pass the company to someone who truly deserves it, my daughter's fiancé, Bryce." Fiancé. That word hit harder than a bullet. I looked down at my hands, still trembling, still wearing the wedding band she gave me 5 years ago, the same one she clearly forgot existed. And then came the final stab. Richard reached into his jacket, walked over, and handed me an envelope. Inside, $500 cash. "This is your actual value, Tyler. Thanks for the software." The room laughed. She laughed. So I stood up, slowly, calmly, walked out the front door. And as I closed it behind me, I made one silent promise. They thought I was finished. They forgot who built the empire they just stole. And tomorrow morning, they'll remember. I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. I sat on the edge of our bed, still dressed from dinner, still smelling her perfume on my sleeve. Her side of the bed stayed cold. She didn't come home. By 6 a.m., I was in the office. Technically, it was still mine. They never revoked my credentials. That was their first mistake. They thought I'd disappear quietly, maybe go cry somewhere or drink myself into numbness. But they forgot. I built everything. The servers, the infrastructure, the back end, the admin panels. I didn't just design the system, I was the system. Without me, it was just blinking lights and dead code. I walked into the server room like a priest entering his temple, pulled up the main terminal, entered my admin key, and stared at the lines of code I wrote, every semicolon and loop, like old friends waiting for my command. A few strokes later, their access was gone. No dashboards. No client logins. No analytics. Nothing. Just a blank screen with a blinking cursor. I left one message on the main interface. System undergoing internal maintenance. Please contact the original developer. By 9:15, they stormed in Bryce, Madison, and Richard, looking like they just walked into their own funeral. "What the hell is this?" Bryce shouted. I didn't even look at him. I was sipping coffee from the company mug, the one that had my name on it. Still did. Madison walked in behind him, her face pale, lips pressed tight. No red dress today. Just all black, like she knew what this was. "I'm giving you 10 seconds to explain before I call legal," Richard barked. I finally looked at him. "Call whoever you want. But just so you know, all proprietary code belongs to me. I never signed it over. Check the contracts you made me write myself. Remember." His face dropped just a little. Not enough for the others to notice. But I saw it. "You can't do this," Madison snapped. That was the first time she spoke. Her voice was sharp, desperate, like the mask was starting to crack. "You're being petty. You're screwing your fiancé in a house I still pay for," I said calmly. "Petty would be letting your mother decorate it." Bryce lunged at me, but Richard held him back. "Good move. The last thing that trust fund poster boy needed was a broken jaw. Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You have 48 hours to buy the software from me. Market price, $4.6 million. Otherwise, I scrub the servers and walk." "Who do you think you are?" Bryce shouted. "I'm the man your fiancé used like a ladder," I said, standing up and locking eyes with Madison. "And now I'm kicking it out from under her." Madison's eyes narrowed, but she didn't speak. She just turned and walked out of the room. That was the first time I saw fear in her. Not anger. Not contempt. Fear. I turned back to the screen and typed one final command before leaving the office. Lockdown. True. As the door closed behind me, I heard the silence in the room. Not a word. Not a breath. That silence was mine now. And it was only the beginning. That night, she came home. I was sitting at the kitchen counter, still in my clothes from the office, eating cold leftovers straight from the container. No music. No TV. Just the sound of the fork tapping the plastic bowl. She walked in like nothing had happened. Heels clicking across the hardwood. Dropped her purse on the table, hung up her coat. Like it was just another Tuesday. Then she saw me. "You changed the locks. You left the door open," I replied. "I just made sure no one else walks in anymore." She stood there, arms crossed, shifting her weight, eyes scanning for the right approach. But there wasn't one. Not this time. "So you're sabotaging the company now?" she said, calm but venomous. "Real mature, Tyler?" I didn't answer. Just took another bite. Chicken stir-fry. Tasted like nothing. "You embarrassed my father. You've humiliated Bryce in front of the entire board." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, we're calling him Bryce now? Not the new guy?" She flinched. Just slightly. I stood up, walked to the sink, dumped the container, rinsed it out. Every motion deliberate, controlled. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of rage. "I gave your father a second chance," I said, voice steady. "I saved his legacy. Built it from dust while he sat in his office getting drunk and watching golf. I worked late nights while you disappeared for yoga and came home smelling like his cologne." She didn't deny it. Instead, she walked up and leaned on the counter like we were arguing about laundry. "You were always so predictable," she said. "So desperate to be the hero, to be needed. But no one needed you, Tyler. We used you because you were convenient. That's all." That one hit different. She knew it, too. I smiled. "Tell me something," I asked. "Was it his money, his body, or just the thrill of betrayal?" She shrugged. "All of it. Maybe. You got boring. Everything with you was about code and loyalty and principles. Bryce knows how to live, right?" I said. "Because living means screwing your husband's code and his wife in the same week." She laughed. Actually laughed. "You think you're some kind of martyr? You're a placeholder, Tyler. The guy before the real guy. The starter home. The beta test." I walked past her, heading to the stairs. I didn't have anything else to say. I was done bleeding for her words. But then she dropped the last one. "Oh, and Tyler? Don't get too comfortable in the house. My name's still on the deed." I turned halfway up the stairs. "Check again tomorrow." And I kept walking. Because while she was busy sleeping her way into the next phase of her life, I was busy transferring everything, assets, property, IP rights. Quietly. Legally. Ironclad. She chose war without knowing I'd already won it. And she had no idea what was coming next. She didn't come home the next night. Or the night after that. I didn't care. Not anymore. I spent those days at my lawyer's office, finalizing the paperwork. House, mine. Intellectual property, mine. Patent ownership, fully transferred. I'd played the quiet, loyal husband for 5 years. She mistook that for weakness. I was done playing. By Friday, her name was gone from every legal document that mattered. I even transferred the car she drove into her father's name, let him pay the insurance on her reckless life. Saturday morning, she showed up. Hair messy, sunglasses still on, wearing Bryce's hoodie. Probably didn't expect to see my car still in the driveway. Probably thought I would have crawled away by now. I opened the door before she knocked. She looked shocked for half a second, then rolled her eyes like I was the one interrupting her life. "We need to talk," she said, brushing past me like she still lived here. I let her walk in. Let her feel like she had control. One last time. She sat at the kitchen island and took off her sunglasses. No makeup. Bloodshot eyes. Something was off. "What?" I asked flatly. She looked around, realizing things were missing. Her wine glasses. Her favorite vase. The photos we had from Bali, Iceland, Barcelona, all gone. "You cleaned the place up." "I cleaned it out," I said. She folded her hands and leaned in. "Look. I didn't expect things to go this way." "No? What did you expect, Madison?" She looked at me for a long second. Like maybe she was trying to find a sliver of the man who used to forgive her every time she lied. Every time she vanished for the weekend. Every time she gaslit me into thinking I was imagining her betrayal. But he was gone. "I'm pregnant." The words came out like a knife to the chest. I didn't breathe. Not because I believed her, but because I knew she was about to weaponize it. "And I don't want the baby to grow up in a war zone," she added. "We don't have to destroy each other, Tyler. We can figure this out. Together." I laughed. Quiet. Cold. "Who's the father?" She didn't answer. That was the answer. I walked to the drawer, pulled out a small folder, and slid it across the counter to her. "What's this?" she asked. "Divorce agreement. Already notarized. You just need to sign it." She scoffed. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm beyond serious." "You wanted freedom? You got it. No alimony. No rights to the software. And since the house was bought from my premarital funds and the title's in my name now, you're out. I'll fight this. You'll lose." She looked down at the folder like it was covered in poison. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up with a name. Bryce. Don't say anything. She reached for it too fast. I saw the panic in her eyes. What's he so worried you'll say? I asked. Nothing. Drop it. But I didn't. I grabbed the phone before she could, opened the messages. There it was. Dozens of texts, plans, timelines, even photos. She'd been planning to take me down for months. Together, Bryce and Madison. They thought I was just another dumb husband who wouldn't notice the knives in his back. She lunged for the phone, but I yanked it away and held it high. I knew you were cheating, I said. But I didn't know you were plotting. Her lips parted, but she had no comeback. No smooth lie. Just silence. I'm done, Madison. No, Tyler, wait. You made your choice. Now live with it. She grabbed the folder, stuffed it into her bag, and stormed out. Didn't slam the door. Just like I hadn't. But this time, the silence wasn't mine. It was hers. The next few days were quiet. Peaceful, even. For the first time in years, I could hear myself think. No arguments. No fake apologies. No perfume-laced lies drifting in behind a 2 a.m. door creak. Just me, the hum of my machines, and a glass of bourbon I didn't have to justify. I thought she might stay away. Thought maybe her pride would keep her gone. But I underestimated how desperate someone can get when they realize the walls are closing in. She showed up at my office on a Tuesday afternoon, dressed like she came from court or church, or maybe both. Tight black skirt, crisp white blouse, heels too loud for someone pretending to be humble. She didn't even knock. Just walked in like it was still hers. There's something you need to see, she said. I didn't look up. Unless it's a signed divorce agreement, I don't. It's about Bryce. Now she had my attention. I leaned back, arms crossed. Go on. She hesitated. Not because she was nervous. She was trying to choose her next performance. The right tone. The right level of broken. He used me, she said finally. Everything he said, everything we planned, it was all to get access to the system. He wanted the software, not me. You don't say. He sold the back-end interface to a competitor. I found emails. Contracts. They're planning a hostile acquisition of my dad's company using your work. My former work, I corrected. She walked closer, placed a USB on my desk. Here. It's all on there. I thought you should know. I picked it up, turned it between my fingers. Why are you giving me this? Because I messed up, she said. Voice low. Almost believable. I let a smooth-talking snake convince me you were just in the way. But he was never planning to build anything. He's a thief. And I was stupid. She looked up at me, eyes glassy, lips trembling. The Madison I married was in there somewhere, buried under layers of lies and regret. But I wasn't digging anymore. I don't care what Bryce did to you, I said. You were a willing accomplice. You wanted the empire without the builder. And now it's all crumbling, and suddenly I'm supposed to feel sorry for you. I'm trying to fix it. No, you're trying to survive it. We stared at each other for a long second. Her eyes pleaded. Mine didn't blink. Then I plugged the USB in. She watched the screen as files opened, contracts, financial transfers, emails between Bryce and an exec at Horizon Atlas, our top competitor. He was trying to sell them the stripped-down skeleton of my system. Without me, it was worthless, but they didn't know that. Yet, you want revenge? I said. She nodded. Good. So do I. I copied the files, encrypted them, and uploaded them to my cloud. Now leave, I said. You've done enough damage for 10 lifetimes. She looked like she wanted to say something. Maybe beg. Maybe lie again. But for once, she stayed quiet. She turned, heels clicking like gunshots, and walked out of my office. When the door clicked shut behind her, I leaned forward and whispered to no one. Your turn, Bryce. Because I wasn't just going to stop them. I was going to bury them. I started the next phase with precision. First, I contacted Horizon Atlas under an anonymous account. Pitched them a bait, a full-service version of the software, more advanced than what Bryce was offering, with a cleaner codebase, full documentation, and ongoing developer support for free. All they had to do was cut contact with Bryce and publicly announce they're pulling out of any acquisition talks with Carrington Global due to technical inconsistencies. They bit hard. By the end of the day, Bryce's little side deal evaporated into smoke. The moment the announcement hit Bloomberg, Richard's company stock fell 12%. Board members started scrambling. Madison's father went full panic mode. But I wasn't done. I leaked the emails, not to the public, not yet, just to every board member, anonymously, right before their Friday meeting. Bryce trying to sell stolen code, Madison knowing about it, Richard ignoring all of it. The file spoke louder than any witness. It didn't take long before someone on the board called for an emergency vote. By Sunday night, Bryce was fired. By Monday morning, Richard was forced into a leave of absence for health reasons. And Madison? She showed up again. This time not in heels or silk. Sweatpants. Hoodie. No makeup. She didn't even look like herself. I opened the door, arms crossed, waiting for the next act in her little play. But she didn't walk in. I lost everything, she said. Her voice was small, unfamiliar. I didn't say a word. She looked up at me. Do you hate me? I thought about that. I wanted to say yes, but I didn't. Hate would imply I still cared. I don't hate you, I said. I just don't believe a single word that comes out of your mouth. I deserve that. She stood there in silence, maybe hoping I'd invite her in. I didn't. Then she reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out something small. Her wedding ring. I thought maybe, once the dust settled. I shook my head. Slowly. You thought wrong. She nodded. Didn't argue. Just closed her hand around the ring again. You were never the villain, Tyler, she said quietly. You were just the warning I didn't listen to. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She turned and walked down the driveway for the last time. And for the first time in years, I felt light. No rage. No heartbreak. Just clean, simple silence. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. Because Bryce had made one last mistake, he hadn't acted alone. There were others on the board who greenlit his plan, who stood by while he took what wasn't his. People who signed off on the betrayal and thought they'd never be found. I had names. I had proof. And by the time I was done, there wouldn't be a single Carrington left in Carrington Global. I spent the next week in the shadows, letting my enemies breathe just long enough to think they were safe. That's when people make mistakes. They exhale too early. They start smiling again, checking their accounts, thinking it's over. That's when you finish the job. I set up a chain of leaks, each one more damning than the last. Not public yet, just private enough to create fear, just damaging enough to trigger internal chaos. A board member named Alan Stokes, he signed off on Bryce's licensing deal. Another, Deborah Klein, she routed internal funds to Bryce's shell company in Nevada. Neither thought they'd ever be exposed. No paper trail? Please. I built the damn trail. I dropped the files in their inboxes with no sender info. Then I watched the internal company Slack channel implode. Executives panicking. Compliance officers sending urgent emails. HR calling emergency meetings. They all thought they were being investigated by the feds. They weren't. It was just me. A laptop. And a thirst for justice. Then I went quiet. No posts. No messages. No retaliation. Just silence. The kind of silence that makes people paranoid. On Wednesday, I got a call from Richard. Blocked number. I still knew it was him the second I heard the old man's phlegmy breath on the line. You've made your point, he said. I didn't reply. Tell me what you want, Tyler. I smiled. Not because he offered, but because he finally realized I was holding all the cards. You gave my wife to a snake, laughed in my face, handed me $500 like a homeless intern, and now you're asking me what I want? I asked. I made a mistake. You made 10. That was just Tuesday. There was silence on the line. Then a low exhale. You're not going to stop, are you? No. I hung up. That night, I walked into Carrington Global headquarters, not as an employee, not as a guest, but as the man they all used, stepped on, discarded, and forgot. Every face that had laughed at me during that dinner tried not to make eye contact as I stepped through the glass doors. Some pretended to type. Some suddenly remembered they had calls to make. Cowards. I walked straight to the boardroom. The same room where they toasted to my downfall. I opened the door. 8 board members. One long table. Silence. I didn't sit. I stood. This company is collapsing from the inside, I said calmly. Not because of the software, but because of the people running it. They shifted in their seats, eyes darting like children caught stealing. I gave you a system that changed the industry, I continued. You gave it to a parasite. Now you've lost control. But here's the good news. They looked up. I'm offering to rebuild it. Murmurs. Confused glances. Under one condition, I said. I take full control. No shareholders. No committees. No Madison. No Richard. Just me. And why would we do that? One of them asked. I dropped a thick envelope on the table. Inside, everything. The leaks. The fraud. The side deals. Names, dates, numbers. You won't, I said. But the SEC will. They opened it. Flipped through page after page. Faces turned white. Or, I added, you can all walk out right now, resign quietly, and let me rebuild what you almost destroyed. A long pause. Then chairs scraped against the floor. One by one, they stood. Left the room. No arguments. No threats. Just silence. Again. Only this time, it was my silence. By the end of that day, Carrington Global was mine. And I hadn't raised my voice once. It took less than 48 hours for the paperwork to be finalized. The board resigned en masse, each with airtight NDAs, each with a whispered thank you for not dragging them through court, or worse, the media. Richard tried to push back once more, sent his lawyers to stall. They left my office pale and quiet. He never called again. Madison texted me once. It was 2 words, you win. I didn't reply. The house was mine. The company was mine. My code was running on every major travel platform in the country, and no one could take it again. Not with my name tattooed all over the back end, not with every system encrypted and bound to my biometric ID. I moved Madison's things into storage. Didn't throw them away. Didn't burn them like I used to fantasize during the worst nights. Just packed them neatly, sent them off with a shipping invoice and a short note. All debts settled. No anger. No insults. Just finality. I didn't rebuild what I lost. I built something entirely new. Rebranded the company. Changed the name. Hired people who valued vision over bloodlines. Created a culture where the guy who saves the company doesn't get paid in humiliation and kicked to the curb. And every single day, I passed by that same boardroom and remembered exactly how it felt to sit at that table while my wife laughed at me. Because that pain? It became fuel. I didn't erase what happened. I didn't want to. That betrayal carved me into someone sharper. Smarter. Colder. Maybe. But clean. Precise. People started asking me if I'd ever get married again. I smiled. Shrugged. Maybe one day. But next time, she won't just fall in love with the builder, she'll respect the architect. And if I could go back and change anything, I wouldn't. Not a damn thing. Because sometimes you have to lose everything you thought mattered to finally see what really does. My advice to anyone out there? Trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs. And when the people closest to you show you who they really are, believe them the first time. And if they betray you, don't scream. Don't beg. Don't chase. Build. And make them watch.